There are people who have learned to stay untouched. They walk through chaos with a stillness that feels almost supernatural, as if they found peace where others lose themselves. But beneath that calm exterior, there is history. A quiet mastery built from pain. Detachment for them is not coldness, it's protection. A survival language written in silence, practiced until it feels like power. They don't crave control over others, only control over what can't be trusted. Emotion, chaos, vulnerability. They've seen what happens when feelings run wild, when love turns unpredictable, when dependence becomes a weakness. So they choose distance. And in that distance, they build strength, but at a cost few ever see. This is the psychology of people who find power in detachment. Chapter 1. The Art of Withdrawing. There's a quiet skill in the way some people step back from the noise. They don't slam doors or make scenes. They simply fade, softly, almost invisibly, until their presence becomes an echo in the room. To others, it looks like composure, control, maturity, but to them it is survival. Detachment doesn't announce itself. It grows quietly like fog on a window. At first, it's a pause, a hesitation before answering, a breath before reacting. Then over time, the pause becomes a wall, a protective veil between the self and the unpredictable. People who find power in detachment are often praised for their calmness. You're so collected, others say. Nothing gets to you? But that's the misunderstanding, things do get to them. They just don't stay. The emotion rises, and the mind gently folds it away before it can hurt. There's an elegance to this kind of emotional restraint. It creates a sense of control in a world that so often feels uncontrollable. When you can't rely on people, on outcomes, on stability, you learn to rely on silence. You build peace out of absence. You master the art of withholding reaction. In this silence, they feel untouchable, like standing underwater while the world above thrashes in the storm. Their pulse stays slow, their face still. The chaos cannot reach them. But inside, there's a different story, one the world never hears. Because detachment isn't just a way of being, it's a language of safety. It says, if I don't feel too much, I can't be hurt too deeply. It says, if I expect nothing, I won't be disappointed. It says, if I stay quiet long enough, the world might leave me in peace. And so they perfect the stillness. They learn to listen more than they speak. They study people not to connect, but to predict, to avoid the unpredictable sting of disappointment. They understand the emotional weather of a room before anyone else does, but they don't step into it. They observe from the edges. To be detached is not to be cold, it is to be cautious. It is the mind's way of holding the fragile parts of the self behind glass, visible but unreachable. And that glass becomes both comfort and cage. When they were younger, emotion felt dangerous. Love could vanish, anger could explode, vulnerability could invite harm. So they learned a simple equation. Emotion equals exposure, and exposure equals pain. The answer was distance, a safe, dignified distance. They built their strength in silence. They replaced the chaos of expression with the calm of control. Over time, that control began to feel like identity. To stay calm meant to stay safe. To stay safe meant to stay detached. But what begins as protection often becomes habit. The distance that once shielded them now defines them. They find it hard to be fully in things. Conversations, relationships, moments of joy. Everything feels slightly muted, like watching life through glass. They feel deeply but show little. They care quietly, almost invisibly. Others may see this as strength. In truth, it is both. Strength and sacrifice. Because in that quiet mastery, something tender is always left behind. The spontaneous laughter, the unguarded tears, the messy humanness that makes life feel real. Those moments require surrender. But surrender feels like danger to the detached mind. So they choose control. Again and again. Until control feels like peace. Yet peace built on avoidance is fragile. It depends on constant vigilance, the steady suppression of what might stir the water. And even though the surface looks serene, the depth below remains restless, waiting to be seen. There's an unspoken ache in those who live this way. They want to be known, but safely. To be loved, but not consumed. To connect, but not collapse. To touch the world without letting it change their temperature. Detachment in its purest form is not rejection of emotion, it's reverence for it. A way of saying, I've seen what unguarded feeling can do, I choose stillness instead. And in that stillness, they discover something both powerful and lonely, a strength that no one can take from them and a solitude that no one can enter. That is the paradox of emotional detachment, the comfort of safety wrapped around the quiet longing to feel alive again. Chapter 2. Where it begins. Detachment rarely starts as a choice. It begins quietly, almost invisibly in the earliest chapters of life, in moments too small to notice and too painful to name. For some, it starts in a house filled with noise but starved of understanding. A parent's anger that never found words. A love that was there but inconsistent. The kind of affection that made you guess whether it was safe to reach out or better to stay still. Children are intuitive long before they are rational. They don't analyze emotion, they absorb it. They feel the temperature of the room and adapt to survive. If warmth feels unpredictable, they learn not to rely on it. If expression brings punishment, they learn to stay quiet. If love feels like walking on glass, they learn to tiptoe through their own heart. And so detachment begins, not as defiance, but as protection. A quiet child who seems mature for their age is often one who learned to self-regulate too soon. They've seen that adults can be unstable, that emotions can explode without warning. So they build small sanctuaries inside themselves, inner rooms where the chaos cannot reach. Over time, those rooms grow larger. They become safe havens, places to retreat when the world feels unpredictable. What starts as emotional survival becomes an identity. The calm one, the strong one, the self-contained one. They don't cry easily. They don't shout. They don't ask for more. Because somewhere deep down, they've already learned that more often leads to disappointment. Psychologists call this avoidant attachment, the pattern where closeness feels dangerous and independence feels like safety. But behind that label is something profoundly human. The story of a child who simply needed consistency and learned to create it alone. In some cases, the origins are even subtler. There may have been no abuse, no open neglect, just a quiet absence of emotional presence, a parent too busy, too tired, or too overwhelmed to truly see. The child smiles, but the smile goes unnoticed. They share excitement, but it's met with silence. Over time, the heart learns. It's safer not to need. Emotional hunger, when left unfed, turns inward. The child stops reaching outward for comfort and begins to find it within control. They learn to manage their own emotions before they have words for them. They don't run to others when hurt. They retreat into stillness. This early withdrawal becomes their language of safety, one that follows them into adulthood. As they grow, the pattern deepens. In friendships, they become the listener, never the one who needs to be heard. In love, they become the steady presence, reliable, predictable, but slightly distant. They crave connection, yet the moment it feels too close, something tightens inside. A quiet instinct whispers, "Careful." This is where it breaks. The adult who finds power in detachment is often a child who once found safety in silence. They learned that self-sufficiency earns peace, while vulnerability invites pain. So they perfected the art of needing less, and the world rewarded them for it. They became the one others admire, strong, composed, independent. No one sees the trade-off. No one knows how much effort it takes to appear unaffected. The detachment that once protected them now defines them, shaping their choices, their love, even their capacity to feel joy. When comfort feels unfamiliar, peace feels suspicious. When kindness feels too consistent, they wait for the shift. When someone truly sees them, it feels like exposure, like standing under bright light after years in shade. And yet beneath all that distance, the child still lives. The one who once longed for someone safe enough to stay, patient enough to listen, and gentle enough to make feeling okay again. That is where detachment truly begins. Not in arrogance, but in self-preservation. It is not the absence of feeling, but the memory of too much. And for those who carry it into adulthood, it becomes both a gift and a ghost, a way to survive the world and a barrier to ever fully belonging to it. Chapter 3. The psychology of emotional control. The human mind is not built to forget pain. It learns from it. And for those who find power in detachment, control becomes the lesson carved into the body itself. To understand their calm, we must understand the systems beneath it. The silent architecture of the nervous system, the brain's way of protecting the self when emotion once felt unsafe. When the mind senses danger, the body follows. Heart rate rises, muscles tense, breath shortens. The nervous system prepares for fight, flight, or freeze. But if chaos becomes constant, if love is unpredictable or safety unreliable, the body learns a fourth option, numbness. It becomes the default setting of survival. This isn't weakness, it's adaptation. The parasympathetic system, the body's brake pedal, learns to press harder. It slows emotion before it spills. It steadies the storm before it begins. Over time, this becomes instinct. The person who seems calm in crisis isn't always composed. They're conditioned. Their body learned long ago that stillness equals safety. Psychologically, detachment is an act of control. It offers predictability in an emotional world. When others are ruled by waves of feeling, the detached individual stands on the shore, watching. They don't resist emotion entirely. They regulate it before it can rise. It feels like mastery. It feels like mine, and in many ways, it is. Control soothes. It tells the mind, you are safe, you are steady. It creates a rhythm that feels unshakable, a sense of identity built around consistency. To lose control even for a moment feels like losing the self, but emotional control at its extreme becomes emotional suppression. The brain begins filtering feelings before they reach awareness. The amygdala, or the center for emotional response, learns to quiet itself, while the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logic and regulation, takes the lead. Thought becomes armor. Analysis replaces vulnerability. People like this rarely act impulsively. They observe first, think twice, and feel last. They use reason the way others use hope, as a guiding light through uncertainty. In relationships, this control can be both grounding and distancing. They offer calm when others panic. But when emotions rise too high, their instinct is to withdraw rather than engage. Science calls this emotional blunting, a state where emotion registers intellectually but not viscerally. They understand what sadness means, but don't always feel it fully. They can describe joy, but it passes through them like wind through glass. It's not that they don't feel, they just feel in slow motion, safely, carefully, without letting it overflow. To them, this feels like freedom. They are not carried away by chaos. They are the observer, not the participant. They believe that by mastering emotion, they've mastered themselves. And in some ways, they have. They are often exceptional in crisis, composed, reliable, rational. In workplaces, they excel under pressure. In conflict, they bring logic where others bring fire. They rarely regret words spoken in anger because they seldom speak in anger at all. But beneath this control lies a quiet cost, the dulling of joy, the delay of grief, the muted beauty of connection. To regulate everything is to soften everything, even the moments that deserve to be felt deeply. The psychology of detachment, then, is not just about emotion, it's about safety. The nervous system equates intensity with danger, so it learns to dim the light, to turn down both pain and pleasure to keep equilibrium. And so they live in balance. But it's a fragile balance, one that depends on holding emotion at arm's length, on trusting control more than trust itself. They've built an identity out of composure, a sanctuary of calm where nothing unexpected can intrude. Yet as every system in nature seeks balance, so does the human heart. Control cannot exist without resistance, and even in the calmest minds, emotion waits, patient, powerful, and unforgotten. Because what was once suppressed never truly disappears. It lingers, quiet and loyal, waiting for the day when it will finally be felt. Not as chaos, but as truth. Chapter 4. The Quiet War. Within outwardly, they seem unshakable. They listen more than they speak. They observe rather than react. They are the calm in every storm, the person others lean on when life grows unpredictable. But inside, something else unfolds, a quiet war that few can see. It's the conflict between safety and longing, between the peace of control and the ache of isolation. Because detachment may protect the heart, but it also silences it. And in the stillness where pain can't reach, joy struggles to enter too. They tell themselves it's fine, that solitude is freedom, that independence is strength. And for a while it works, until a small moment cracks the surface. A glance that lingers, a kindness that feels too gentle, a question that touches the parts they've kept hidden, and suddenly the armor feels heavy. Emotional distance carries a strange loneliness. It isn't the loneliness of being alone, but the loneliness of being unseen even in company. They can sit beside someone they love and still feel an ocean between them. They want to reach across, but the instinct to retreat wins. It always does, because closeness feels like danger. Not physical danger, but emotional unpredictability. The kind that once made them small and powerless. They remember, even if only in feeling, what it's like to care too much and lose control, to rely on someone who couldn't stay steady. And so their body remembers before their mind decides, stay composed, stay distant, stay safe. But suppression is never silence. It's tension held inward. The heart still feels, just beneath the surface. The longing doesn't disappear, it hides behind restraint. It whispers at night when the world is quiet and there's no one left to perform calmness for. Sometimes they dream vividly, emotions spilling out in colors too bright to name. They wake with their chest tight and no reason why. That is the body remembering what the mind refused to feel. The quiet war within is a push and pull between the need for safety and the desire for intimacy. One half says don't trust them. The other half whispers, but you're tired of being alone. And so they oscillate, drawing near, then pulling away. Opening slightly, then closing again. Each gesture of vulnerability feels like standing at a cliff's edge, unsure if the ground will hold. They're not indifferent, they're cautious. Not heartless, but disciplined. Their love is deliberate, a love that watches itself. It measures the emotional weather before stepping outside. They feel deeply but safely, in small doses that won't flood the system, but what they fear most is being misunderstood. People see their calm and assume detachment means apathy, that they don't care, don't feel, don't hurt. If only they knew how exhausting it is to hold everything together, how much effort it takes to appear unaffected, to stay still when every instinct wants to reach. The detached mind doesn't want to destroy connection. It wants to survive it. It wants a love that doesn't require self-abandonment, a relationship where closeness doesn't demand exposure. But such balance is rare, and the absence of it feeds their belief that only control can protect them. Still, the human heart resists captivity. No matter how carefully it's trained, it seeks to connect. It remembers softness. It aches for a moment where it can rest without vigilance. And when they finally meet someone who feels safe enough, something begins to shift. The war quiets, not because it's won, but because exhaustion makes honesty easier than defense. For a brief moment, they let the guard slip. They feel the trembling under their calm. They realize the truth detachment has hidden all along, that the need for connection never truly dies. It only waits for permission. This is the paradox of emotional control. It creates safety, but safety without connection eventually becomes emptiness. And somewhere within, they begin to sense that true peace might not be the absence of feeling, but the ability to feel without fear. Chapter 5. When stillness breaks. There always comes a moment when stillness begins to tremble. It rarely happens suddenly. It's more like a slow, invisible shift, a small crack forming in the calm surface they've spent years perfecting. Maybe it begins with grief, a loss too deep to rationalize. Maybe it begins with love, a closeness they didn't plan for. Or maybe it's something quieter, a song that stirs an old memory, a scent that brings back a childhood they tried to forget. Whatever it is, it bypasses logic. It doesn't ask permission. The wall that once kept everything out begins to let something in. At first it feels wrong, unsafe. The familiar sense of control starts to slip. Emotions rise faster than they can be managed. The body, trained for calm, doesn't know what to do with this sudden aliveness. Tears come without warning. Anger feels foreign but electric. Joy feels almost frightening. This is the moment the detached person fears most, the moment when emotion no longer obeys. It's disorienting. They've built their identity around composure, and now composure begins to fracture. The mind says, hold it together, but the body says, feel it now. And the body always wins, because the heart cannot stay numb forever. Suppression is only a pause, not an erasure. Every feeling that was once denied waits patiently beneath the surface, unaged, unprocessed, unfinished. When the wall finally cracks, everything returns at once. It can feel overwhelming, even terrifying. They might withdraw again, mistaking this eruption for chaos. They might think I'm losing control, when in truth, they're finally regaining it. Because true control isn't about not feeling, it's about allowing emotion without drowning in it. Still, this awakening hurts. The pain they had outrun for years now asks to be acknowledged. The loneliness they once disguised as independence stands in the light. For the first time, they can't hide behind calmness. They have to meet the raw parts of themselves. The neglected child, the silenced grief, the unspoken desire to be held. Many describe this stage as emotional flooding, when the mind's defenses soften and the heart rushes forward. It can feel like standing in the middle of a storm with no shelter. But it's also a cleansing, a return. Every tear shed is a message from the body. You're safe enough to feel again. And somewhere amid that storm, something shifts. The fear that once guarded them begins to loosen its grip. They realize that emotion doesn't have to destroy, it can illuminate. They see that sadness isn't weakness, it's the echo of connection lost. That anger isn't danger, it's self-protection misunderstood. That love, though risky, is the only thing that ever made them feel truly alive. The stillness they once worshipped starts to feel heavy. Too quiet, too lonely. They begin to sense that peace without aliveness isn't peace at all. It's absence. So they take small risks. They speak when they would have stayed silent. They allow themselves to cry in front of someone they trust. They share something vulnerable and wait, heart racing, to see if the world collapses. It doesn't. And in that moment, something miraculous happens. The very act they feared most, being seen, becomes the beginning of healing. The stillness that once felt like strength now transforms into spaciousness, room for emotion to exist without consuming them. They begin to understand that calm and connection aren't enemies. They can coexist, like still water reflecting light. When stillness breaks, it doesn't destroy the self, it reveals it. What emerges isn't weakness, but wholeness. The fusion of calm and feeling, intellect and heart. This is the quiet revolution within detachment. The realization that safety and aliveness can finally live in the same body. Chapter 6. Learning to feel without losing control. Healing begins in small, almost invisible ways. It doesn't arrive as an epiphany or a dramatic transformation. It comes quietly and in a pause that's no longer about withdrawal, but awareness, in a breath that doesn't suppress emotion, but allows it. For those who've built their identity around detachment, this stage feels uncertain. To feel again means to risk instability. It means surrendering the illusion of control that once defined safety. But what they slowly begin to learn is that emotion isn't chaos, it's communication. The heart isn't trying to destroy them, it's trying to speak. Healing starts when they stop managing feelings like problems to be solved and begin meeting them as messages to be heard. Sadness becomes an invitation to rest. Anger becomes a boundary asking to be drawn. Loneliness becomes a call for connection, not a sign of weakness. To feel without losing control means to reestablish trust, not in others first, but in oneself. Trust that emotion will pass like weather, that it doesn't need to be shut down to stay safe. Trust that allowing feeling doesn't undo strength, it deepens it. They begin to see that control and vulnerability are not opposites, they're companions. Control provides grounding, vulnerability gives meaning. When held together, they create something new, emotional maturity. In therapy, mindfulness, or quiet self-reflection, they start to explore the body's stored language, the tension in the chest, the weight behind the eyes, the shallow breath that has lingered for years. Each sensation holds a fragment of a story that was never told. Feeling becomes less about breaking down and more about listening deeply. They may notice that tears come more easily now, not as breakdowns, but as release. Moments of warmth appear unexpectedly, laughter that doesn't feel restrained, a conversation that feels real, a silence that feels safe instead of lonely. This is what integration looks like. The slow weaving together of two worlds, the safety of distance and the richness of connection. They start to learn a new rhythm of emotional life. Instead of suppressing intensity, they regulate it. Instead of fearing closeness, they practice it in small doses. Instead of hiding pain, they name it, softly, gently, without shame. Science calls this emotional regulation, but in human language, it's self-trust. The nervous system begins to recalibrate. The body that once braced for pain starts to relax into the possibility of peace. The heart learns that openness doesn't always lead to harm. Sometimes it leads to understanding. Feeling without losing control also means allowing joy, a sensation that once felt too bright, too uncontrollable. Joy used to scare them because it meant something could be lost. But now they begin to understand that joy doesn't promise permanence, it offers presence. It exists in moments. A sunrise, a laugh, a familiar hand resting quietly in theirs. And that is enough. They no longer need to stay distant to stay safe. They learn that boundaries can protect them better than walls. That calm doesn't have to mean numbness, that connection doesn't have to mean collapse. In this stage, they begin to redefine power. Power is no longer control over emotion, it's the ability to stay open within it. It's the strength to remain grounded while feeling deeply. It's choosing connection over isolation, even when the instinct to retreat still whispers. The journey of feeling again isn't about returning to who they were before detachment. It's about becoming someone new. Someone balanced, whole, awake. Someone who can stand in the storm and know that peace is not the absence of rain, but the trust that they will not drown. This is what it means to feel without losing control. Not the erasure of stillness, but its evolution into something softer, truer, and profoundly alive. Chapter 7. The Power of Gentle Connection. There comes a moment, often unnoticed, when the distance inside begins to soften. The walls that once felt like protection start to feel unnecessary, almost heavy. And what replaces them isn't exposure or chaos, but something quieter. Connection. Gentle, unforced, real. For those who've lived through detachment, connection feels like an uncharted language. It's not the rush of intensity they once avoided, nor the dependency they feared. It's subtle. A meeting of presence, not possession. It doesn't demand. It simply exists. Gentle connection begins with small gestures. A shared silence that doesn't feel awkward. A conversation that flows without performance. A moment of being seen, not judged. It's in these moments that the detached learn something new. That intimacy isn't about merging with another, but about standing beside them, both whole, both seen. Connection doesn't erase solitude, it makes it meaningful. They start to realize that people are not threats to their peace, they are mirrors, reflecting not perfection, but humanity. Through them, they begin to see their own emotions not as weaknesses, but as signs of life. Gentle connection heals differently than intensity. It doesn't rush to fill emptiness. It doesn't demand certainty. It grows slowly, like light creeping into a room that's been closed for too long. And as the light enters, they begin to notice things they'd once ignored. The warmth in small kindnesses, the rhythm in shared laughter, the ease in simply existing near another without defense. This too is power, not the cold, untouchable kind that detachment once promised, but a softer, deeper strength. The power to remain open without collapsing, to love without losing oneself, to trust the process of being human. They start to understand that control was never the real goal. Safety was. And now safety comes not from walls, but from wisdom, from knowing they can face the waves of emotion and still find the shore. In psychology, this shift is known as secure connection. But beyond the theory, it's something profoundly human. The quiet return to belonging. It's the realization that independence and connection are not opposites. They're rhythms of the same song. Inhale and exhale, giving and receiving, self and other. When people who once found power in detachment rediscover connection, it doesn't erase their strength. It refines it. Their calm becomes empathy. Their distance becomes discernment. Their stillness becomes presence. They no longer hide from the world. They meet it softly. And in that meeting, they discover a truth that detachment once disguised. That it's not feeling that hurts, but resistance to it. Once they stop resisting, emotion flows freely, like water that finally finds its course. Gentle connection is not loud or dramatic. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It feels like peace that lingers after conversation. Like quiet understanding that doesn't need to be proven. It's the kind of connection that makes solitude beautiful, not lonely. Because now solitude is a choice, not a shield. In this stage, the detached become something else entirely. Emotionally intelligent beings who understand both the necessity of space and the sacredness of closeness. They've learned the art of balance. Being present without losing themselves, being open without being consumed. They begin to walk through the world differently now. Slower, softer, seeing humanity not as a battlefield of power, but as a collection of fragile, feeling hearts, all trying to be safe in their own ways. And maybe that's the final lesson. Power was never in detachment, it was in awareness. The ability to choose calm without closing off, to protect peace without rejecting love, to remain human, fully, fearfully, beautifully human. Because in the end, it's not being untouchable that sets them free. It's learning that true strength is the courage to be touched and still stay open.